final message. Our submarine is sunk, and we are at a stage of great instability. The flood is coming, but we are stuck, and we are dying. Please, we need the help. Oh no, he's here now.
Distant world, a chilling symphony of chaos unfolded. The once thriving tapestry of life was now unraveling, each note echoing the impending doom that had fallen upon the land. Life across the globe withered as an unexpected explosion, its origins veiled in mystery, sent shockwaves throughout the world. The aftermath was an apocalyptic event where temperatures soared to unprecedented heights, rendering much of the world's surface inhospitable. Trees stood as skeletal remains, and grass turned to ash, leaving the land barren and devoid of most surface-dwelling creatures. This extinction-level event was unparalleled in its ferocity and intensity, and a dark shadow was cast over the world. And yet, as the surface suffered, a paradox began to unfold beneath the ocean. As, while the land above succumbed to the merciless heat, the depths of the oceans pulsated with an eerie vitality. Because a great flood had descended upon the world as the ice had all melted, and thus much of the previously inhospitable lands were drowned, transforming the once boiling biomes into underwater sanctuaries. In the submerged remnants of snowy tundras, a strange resilience manifested. The once cold depths birthed an unseen abundance as coral reefs began to sprout up with an unnatural speed, due to the fact that the optimum temperatures had now been reached due to the increased heat in those colder biomes. The underwater realm, hidden from the surface's suffering, painted a surreal picture of survival against all odds. The oceans, now expansive heavens of life, harbored secrets and wonders that defied the cataclysmic fate above. But little did the remnants of life know, this aquatic sanctuary held within it a tale yet to be unveiled. But still, before we can get into that, we must first understand that in the heart of this submerged upheaval, a mesmerizing dance unfolded under the waves. The coral reefs, spurred on by an almost supernatural growth rate, became the sanctuary for oceanic life amid the chaotic wreckage above. Trillions of fishes, squids, dolphins, and turtles all sought refuge in these underwater heavens, a desperate escape from the dangers that raged on the surface. In this underwater realm, life denied its own fragility, thriving when all should be over. This underwater realm was resilient, and so, amidst all the chaos and uncertainty, a thriving community emerged. The ceaseless efforts of the diverse marine inhabitants, facing the most extreme conditions ever known, led to rapid evolution. Coral reefs quickly became more than just natural wonders. They evolved into vibrant underwater cities, housing the booming population. And as the coral structures expanded, the innovative minds beneath the waves turned their attention to sustenance. The cultivation of kelp, a staple for the underwater society, witnessed unprecedented growth. Pioneering technologies and farming techniques sprouted like coral formations, ensuring that the growing population was not just sustained, but flourishing. This period in time marked a renaissance for the underwater world, as they were going through a time of profound change, greater than even that of the agricultural and the industrial revolutions combined that had occurred in the villager's realm. Houses nestled within the living structures of the corals, forming intricate tapestries of underwater metropolises. The underwater creatures, facing adversity head-on, propelled their society forward at a pace unseen in their aquatic history. And so, the underwater civilizations were thriving, reaching heights of development that defied the odds that were stacked against them. It was a golden age beneath the waves, a time of unparalleled growth and progress. The echoes of peace reverberated through the water, creating a harmonious symphony that contrasted sharply with the chaos reigning above. The underwater world stood as a testament to resilience, innovation, and the unstoppable force of life, even in the face of an impending catastrophe. And so, in the midst of this unprecedented growth, a singular pufferfish emerged from the depths. And he was destined to leave an unforgettable mark on this thriving underwater world that would shape it like never before. His name was Puffy, and he was born into a family of 27 pufferfish, whose humble coral huts stood in the stark contrast to the towering offices of innovation nearby. Puffy's family, though not the wealthiest, held many dreams within their hearts. Their coral abode, a modest dwelling, lay not too far from the epicenter of all the creativity within the underwater realm, the great offices of the fish. These offices were the starting point where many groundbreaking inventions were thought of and crafted. It was there that the destiny of the underwater civilization was shaped. Now, as Puffy matured, he found himself captivated by the luminous glow emanating from those offices during night. His dreams soared beyond the confines of his humble upbringing, as he was constantly envisioning a future where he could contribute to the monumental innovations that propelled their society. And so, night after night, Puffy gazed longingly at the distant offices, his aspirations as vast as the ocean itself. And so determined to transcend his modest beginnings, Puffy dedicated his childhood to a relentless pursuit of knowledge. And thus, in the quiet corners of the underwater world, he devoured all the books that he could find, and absorbed all the wisdom contained within them, becoming one of the most educated young pufferfish in the entire ocean. His insatiable curiosity and hunger for learning set him apart, igniting a spark within him that would one day shine brightly. And so, as the currents of life swept Puffy into the depths of adulthood, his unwavering pursuit of knowledge moved to be the compass guiding him to remarkable heights. The once aspiring pufferfish now found himself within the hollowed halls of innovation, bestowed with a coveted position in one of those magnificent offices. His office, a masterpiece crafted from the mystifying glow of the tube corals, offered an excellent view of the ever-expanding coral reefs below. A living canvas of progress that he was contributing to shaping. Day after day, Puffy immersed himself in the currents of creativity, tapping away on his computer with an intensity only matched by the ebb and flow of the underwater currents. His efforts were instrumental in bringing to life innovations that defied the boundaries of imagination. Underwater fires danced with a godly grace. Waterproofed wiring intricately weaved its way through the currents, and the mystical subscribe button became a symbol of connectivity that resounded throughout the underwater civilization. All of those inventions he contributed to, and without him, they wouldn't have been possible. And so, in those transformative years, Puffy's hard work and dedication yielded great reward. His rise through the ranks allowed him to acquire his own residence that mirrored the opulence of his achievements. Perched high above the bustling offices, his apartment provided panoramic views of the growing coral metropolis, and within its walls, Puffy enjoyed the luxuries of a blue coral fan bed, a cocoon of comfort that held him warmly as he contemplated the boundless possibilities that lay ahead. Puffy's dwelling was a showcase of abundance. 2 furnaces hummed with warmth, casting a gentle glow that illuminated his accomplishments within his home. Barrels, which during those times were a rarity, stood ready on the side to harbour the treasures he collected in the course of his endeavours. His life had transformed into a symphony of success, an echo of dreams fulfilled in the quiet currents that followed around him, and as he drifted into slumber on his luxurious bed each night, Puffy couldn't help to marvel at the reality he had crafted. His life was just perfect. However, the underwater utopia, once a beacon of prosperity, now stood at the beginning of a grand change, as the explosive growth that once fueled the dreams and innovations of the underwater world, well, it was now faltering, and because of that, a shadow was cast over the once thriving metropolis. The affluent elite, who had invested massively in the promise of a brighter future, now watched with uncertainty as signs of a slowdown emerged. Panic surged through the underwater realm, and the fish stock market, once a symbol of aquatic affluence, plunged into the depths. The crash sent shockwaves through the very foundations of the offices, transforming them into chaotic realms of uncertainty and fear. The underwater world was thrown into turmoil, and the once bustling offices now echoed with anxiety. There was still great growth, but the rate of said growth was now slowing, and so the society was still improving, just not as quickly. Thus, there should really be no reason for all of this fear. But still, logic was far gone now. Everyone was fearful of what was to come. The offices, once vibrant hubs of creativity and innovation, now stood silent and empty. The bustling corridors were replaced by an eerie stillness, and the glow of the blue corals seemed to dim in sync with their sinking fortunes. When Puffy returned to his office the following day, he was met with a reality that seemed inconceivable. The doors, once wide open to welcome the eager minds of the underwater world, were now closed, barring him entry. And as he stood there, perplexed and disheartened, his boss, a figure of authority who had once overseen the symphony of his progress, emerged from the shadows. With a voice that cut through the silence, the boss bellowed,
You are fired! Now get out!
The words reverberated through the halls, echoing the end of his dream. The underwater world, once a bastion of advancement and promise, now faced a great fall. Puffy, once a celebrated contributor to innovation, found himself on the outside, watching on as the currents of uncertainty carried away the life he had built. The underwater realm, which had weathered cataclysms and had thrived against all odds, now stood at the crossroads of an uncertain fate that was caused from within. The shock of this experience reverberated through the very being of Puffy as he stood outside the closed doors of his once thriving office. His identity, intricately woven with the purpose that he had found within those walls, was now unraveling before him. Panic quickly seized him, and a sense of desperation clawed at the edges of his consciousness. Attempts to secure another position in a different office proved futile. The crisis that gripped the underwater world had transformed the once welcoming employers into gatekeepers of knowledge. Puffy found himself at the mercy of circumstance, the currents of uncertainty dragging him into a whirlpool of despair. His days, once filled with purpose and innovation, now echoed with the haunting silence of unemployment. Confusion etched deep lines upon his face as he wandered through the Coral City. Once bustling with life, it was now reduced to a mere echo of his former glory. Every attempt to rebuild his life was met with rejection. The once educated pufferfish, a beacon of knowledge and innovation, now found himself adrift in the sea of nothingness. Everything he had built proved futile in that moment, and the only emotions that he could comprehend after a short while were just anger and rage. That boss of his should have never fired him. He was the perfect worker. The weight of his anger and frustration bore down upon him, and in a fit of rage, he succumbed to a momentary lapse in judgment. And so, breaking into his old boss's apartment, he seized his furnace in an act of retribution, a desperate grasp at control in a world spiraling out of control. Yet, as he stared at the stolen oven, a revelation struck him. This was not the life that he desired. He didn't want to live, defined by stolen warmth and fractured connections. And so, a sudden idea to escape the confines of this society seized him. And so, rather quickly, he gathered up all of his belongings, and he embarked on a journey to the dark, uncharted depths of the ocean. The inky abyss welcomed him, offering a solitude that he deeply craved after enduring the recent events. Puffy, once an integral part of a thriving civilization, now ventured into the unknown, seeking a life free from the constraints of this society. The dark depths swallowed him whole, and as the currents carried him away, he disappeared into the vast expanse, leaving behind a world that he had once loved. In the silent realms where no other being dared to tread, Puffy found solace as he yearned for a life unbound by the whims of fate, as he wanted a life of complete freedom. Now, the oppressive cold of the deep ocean enveloped Puffy quite quickly as he ventured deeper into the desolate expanse. Unlike the heat above, these oceans, where the corals couldn't grow, cooled rapidly, as all the heat that had once resided here had migrated to the surface, and so these waters were cold and uncomfortable. In fact, they were almost freezing. The water, once teeming with life and warmth, became an icy abyss that seemed to seep into his very bones. He didn't like this. Yet, despite the biting cold, he pressed on. The darkness around him only matched by the uncertainty within his soul. Days turned into an agonizing blur as he swam further and further into the depths. The isolation weighing on him like an anchor, dragging his spirits to new lows. Doubt crept in with each passing moment, questioning the sanity of the decision he had made to abandon the familiar world behind him for this desperate journey. Soon, his breaths became shallow, the frigid waters demanding more and more effort. With each stroke, Puffy felt the relentless cold tightening his grip, squeezing the warmth from his very soul. Thoughts of turning back lingered within his mind, but the relentless current of the underwater world pushed him forward, leaving him no choice but to brave the abyss. The darkness seemed unyielding, an eternal night with no end in sight. Puffy's vision began to blur as he descended into the darkness, his surroundings becoming an indistinguishable void. The isolation became palpable, a suffocating weight that pressed against him from all sides. With every passing moment, the cold intensified, a relentless adversary that seemed determined to extinguish the spark of hope that remained within him. The underwater world, once a vibrant tapestry of life, now felt like an alien realm, hostile and unforgiving. Puffy's breath echoed in the silence, a rhythmic reminder of his struggle against the depths. As his strength waned, Puffy's movements became sluggish. Each stroke through the frigid waters felt like an eternity, and the thought of finding safety seemed like a distant dream. Yet, in the midst of despair, a dim light flickered in the distance. It was a kelp forest, a modest sanctuary, hidden in the heart of the dark ocean. The struggle had taken its toll on Puffy, but the sight of the kelp forest ignited a spark within his soul, and so, with renewed determination, he sprinted towards it. With the last reserves of his strength, he pushed forward. The current, once an adversary, now became an ally, as it guided him towards the heaven that promised respite from his harsh journey. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of struggle, Puffy reached the kelp forest. The relief that washed over him was immeasurable. The modest sanctuary, surrounded by the cold and inhospitable ocean, now stood as a beacon of warmth and hope. Puffy, battered and weary, found solace in the embrace of the kelp-covered heaven, grateful for the sanctuary that had eluded him for so long. In the hushed embrace of the kelp-covered sanctuary, Puffy's desire for warmth led him to confront the stolen furnace that had fueled the start of this desperate journey. And so, with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation, he opened the furnace to reveal the spoils of his impulsive act. However, what awaited him inside was far from the expected provisions. His eyes widened in horror as he gazed upon the cooking section, where the flickering flames cast an eerie glow on the contents within. A pufferfish, the very creature that shared his form. The same species he belonged to lay lifeless and cooked within the stolen furnace. Shock surged through Puffy's senses, a visceral reaction to the unexpected and grotesque sight. He had anticipated sustenance, perhaps dried kelp, maybe even an apple or a potato, but never had he fathomed the grim reality before him. The very act of consuming a pufferfish, one of his own kind, sent shivers down his spine. Traumatized by the macabre revelation, Puffy's mind recoiled in horror. The depths of the dark ocean seemed to close in on him as he struggled to comprehend the gruesome truth. The flickering light of the furnace illuminated the grotesque scene before him, etching the image of the cooked pufferfish into his consciousness. And so, overwhelmed by the shock, Puffy's senses faltered, and the world around him began to darken. In an instant, he succumbed to the weight of this revelation, and his body, unable to bear the trauma, succumbed to unconsciousness. The waves of darkness washed over him as he fainted, leaving a lone pufferfish adrift in the unsettling silence of the kelp sanctuary. As Puffy regained consciousness, the world around him appeared as a blurry mosaic of shadows and indistinct shapes. The sound of rain drumming down on the ocean's surface filled his ears, adding to the disorienting symphony of his surroundings. In an attempt to grasp his bearings, Puffy spun in circles, hoping to decipher the unfamiliar landscape of his new home. But amidst the blurred panorama, a sudden glimmer of red caught Puffy's attention. The glow, reminiscent of the enticing hue of fire coral, beckoned him with the promise of a delicious snack. His favourite flavour, a treat that seemed to defy the bleakness of his recent revelations. And so, driven by instinct and a hunger for the familiar taste of fire coral, Puffy propelled himself towards the crimson glow. The journey, however, proved challenging. The surroundings still appeared distorted, and Puffy stumbled through the water, his movements uncoordinated and shaky. The elusive glow seemed to dance just out of reach, leading him astray with each unsteady stroke. But after what felt like an eternity, Puffy finally reached the radiant red object. And so, without hesitation, he opened his mouth wide, ready to devour the anticipated burst of flavour. However, as his teeth clamped down, the unexpected crunch of coral was replaced by an unexpected resistance. Reality struck with a sudden and brutal force. Puffy had not just bitten into coral. No, instead, he had just found himself ensnared by a fishing rod hook. The red glow that had lured him in was nothing more than a cruel illusion, a mirage that concealed the hidden danger. Panic gripped Puffy as he realized the truth. He had been tricked. The hook pierced through his mouth, leaving him suspended in the water, a captive of the very bait that had promised a delicious meal. The once hopeful pufferfish, now entangled in a deceptive trap, thrashed against the unseen forces that had betrayed him. The dark depths of the ocean, which had initially promised solace, now held him captive in a cruel game of deception. As the village fisherman swiftly reeled in his fishing rod, a cruel satisfaction painted his face as he beheld the trapped pufferfish. With a callous disregard, he tossed Puffy into a bucket, a captive in the tiny vessel that seemed to offer no escape. Puffy, now trapped in the cold confines of that bucket, felt the world closing in around him. Days turned into an agonizing blur as Puffy just existed in that bucket aboard the boat. The relentless rocking of the vessel added to his disorientation, amplifying the sense of hopelessness that pervaded his every thought. The fisherman, relentless in his pursuit, continued to cast his fishing rod into the desolate waters, searching for life where none existed. Miles and miles and miles of empty ocean stretched before them, a barren expanse devoid of any living creature. And yet the fisherman continued with his foolish search. Puffy, confined in the bucket, was the sole inhabitant in this desolate seascape. The absurdity of the situation became painfully evident. Puffy was the only living being for many miles, and the fisherman, driven by ineffectiveness and blind optimism, persisted in his quest for the non-existent prey. The fisherman's presence in this desolate realm seemed a testament to his own incompetence, a testament to his inability to comprehend the lifeless void that surrounded him. The irony of Puffy's capture gnawed at his thoughts, an unfortunate victim of this fisherman's lack of skill and pure, dumb luck. In this place, where survival seemed impossible, the fisherman's dumb luck had guided him to the solitary pufferfish. But, thankfully, after a few days, the fisherman finally realized all of his failures, and he began to move. Where to? Puffy had no idea, but he just had to hope that wherever they were heading was safer than the barren ocean they currently resided in. Now, initially, that didn't seem to be the case, as the journey was a torturous ordeal for Puffy, as confined to that cramped bucket within the fisherman's boat, he was unable to move. Each wave that crashed against the vessel echoed the pain and frustration that surged through him. The relentless rocking of the boat intensified the sense of hopelessness within his soul, a cruel reminder of his captive state. The skies above grew ominous as dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. A storm, brewing with malevolence, soon unleashed its fury upon the small boat. Rain lashed against Puffy, the salty droplets mingling with the tears of frustration that welled in his eyes. The tumultuous sea mirrored the turmoil within him, as the fisherman battled the tempest in his quest for more fishes and survival. And so, rowing through the raging storm, the fisherman pressed on, oblivious to the silent suffering of the pufferfish within that bucket. But even if he did notice, he likely wouldn't care. Each wave was a relentless assault on Puffy's senses, a symphony of chaos that drowned his pleas for release. The boat, tossed like a plaything by the angry ocean, became a source of torment for the captive creature within. But after days of battling the tempest, the fisherman finally guided the battered boat to the shores of a small coastal village. The village, a last bastion in a world succumbing to unknown calamities, stood as a reminder to the endurance of the few remaining villagers, as this was probably one of the final villages that existed within this world. And yet, despite the evident danger and the scarcity of resources and the high likelihood of death, a strange sense of hope and happiness clung to the air. Now, the fisherman, unfazed by the world's decay, swiftly walked into a small hut by the ocean, carrying the bucket with Puffy along with him. And then, once inside, the pufferfish was thrown out of the bucket and released into a small basket of water. The confines of this basket, made from oak trapdoors and measuring only 3 by 1, felt like a prison to Puffy. The oppressive walls seemed to close in on him, and the bubble coral fan in the center cast an eerie shadow that danced in the dim light. Trapped within the grim confines of that basket, Puffy's world had shrunk to the harsh reality of his captivity. The oak trapdoors seemed like impenetrable barriers, and the bubble coral fan, though beautiful, only served as a distraction from the grimness of his existence. In the hushed darkness of that small coastal village, Puffy, despite the hope that clung to the air, found himself trapped in a bleak existence within the confines of that basket. In the weeks that followed, the basket became a monotonous cycle of feeding times and then endless hours of solitude for Puffy. Left to his own devices, he swam back and forth within the confines of that basket, a ceaseless routine, the repetitive beats of his anxious heart. When fatigue set in, he sought refuge on the coral fan, a frail sanctuary in the midst of captivity. Days turned into a dreary blur as Puffy wrestled with the overwhelming stress of his confinement. The yearning for freedom gnawed at him, but the walls of the basket held him captive, a cruel reminder of his limitations. His only solace lay in the sporadic slumber that claimed him on the bubble coral, a restless respite from the harsh reality that enveloped his soul. But amidst the ceaseless monotony, Puffy's anxious spirit gradually found a frail equilibrium. The repetitive rhythm of his movements began to slow as he embraced a newfound calmness. The need for a clear mind became apparent, a realization that to escape this predicament, he needed to confront the situation with a sense of purpose and clarity. And so, with a focused determination, Puffy redirected his energy from aimlessly swimming around to studying his surroundings. But for the first time, as he peered through the gaps within that barrel, he uncovered a horrifying truth. He saw the skeletons of hundreds of other fish. The grim reality washed over him like a tidal wave. This wasn't just any random hut. No, this was a fish restaurant, and he was destined to become part of the menu. Fear gripped Puffy as the realization set in. In a mix of horror and dark humor, he envisioned the fate that awaited him on the dinner plate. Perhaps deep-sea despair delight, or maybe even Puffy-subscribed soup were going to be his destinies. Either way, he didn't like it. This was just a complete nightmare. The absurdity of the situation, while darkly comical, intensified his terror. But, unable to escape the truth of his impending fate, Puffy recoiled into the corners of the barrel, the weight of his vulnerability pressing down on him. Tears welled up in his eyes as the gravity of his situation sank in. In the silent confines of that barrel, Puffy cried himself to sleep, a pufferfish lost in the cruel embrace of a fish restaurant, haunted by the looming vision of becoming a meal in this grim, aquatic restaurant. A few hours passed when he was suddenly awoken by the chaotic symphony of panic screams and a tempest's fury. Puffy's senses jolted to life. The air cracked with tension as the storm, a relentless force of nature, unleashed its wrath upon the coastal village. Thunderous roars echoed through the air, punctuated by blinding flashes of lightning that painted the sky in ominous hues. Amid the chaos, a villager, their face etched with fear, burst into the fish restaurant, their eyes locked onto Puffy, and for a fleeting moment, the pufferfish felt a glimmer of hope. However, the villager's gaze conveyed a stark assessment. The risk of saving this lone pufferfish amidst the turmoil outweighed the perceived value, and so, in a cold, calculating moment, the villager decided it wasn't worth the effort. And so, without a second glance, he left the fish restaurant, disappearing into the darkness outside. He would never return. Abandoned, Puffy found himself alone Once more, a sentient creature, discarded in the face of impending danger, trapped in that basket and unable to save himself. As the villagers hastily abandoned their homes, the realization dawned on Puffy. This once habitable coastal village was now deemed unsafe, a realm of peril that the villagers were fleeing. The storm, a harbinger of destruction, had forced the inhabitants to abandon their home, leaving behind not just their village, but also the pufferfish that they had stolen with the full intention of eating. They could have just left him in that ocean, and their lives would have been the same, but no, they had chosen to kidnap him, and now he was going to die all alone in their village because of that. Left to grapple with the bitter truth, Puffy felt the weight of abandonment press upon him. The villagers, who had once harboured hope and happiness for the world, had cast him aside in their desperate bid for survival. The air, thick with the scent of salt and despair, hung heavily around him as he faced the daunting reality. A deserted fish restaurant on the edge of collapse, with only the storm and the impending darkness for company. This was a dire turn of events, and Puffy couldn't shake the ominous feeling that his fate had taken a darker twist. He was doomed. The storm raged on, a relentless force, leaving Puffy alone to confront the harsh reality that he had been wronged. Left behind to face the impending chaos all alone. As the storm intensified over the next few hours, the once distant rumble of thunder grew into a cacophony that reverberated through the fish restaurant. Lightning, more frequent and menacing, shattered the darkness with blinding flashes that outlined the skeletal remains of the once living beings who had met their demise within these walls. In the midst of the storm's crescendo, a surreal sight unfolded. A strange blue glow on the horizon. It pierced through the tumultuous night, casting an otherworldly radiance that clashed with the storm's chaotic dance. Puffy, trapped in his confined space, could only watch in dread as the demonic blue glow grew brighter and brighter with each passing moment. Fear gripped his very essence as he witnessed the ominous glow drawing nearer. The distant thunder seemed to echo the rhythm of his accelerating heart. The unnatural brilliance of the blue light seeped into every corner of the fish restaurant, casting eerie shadows that danced across the basket's interior. In the face of this ghostly luminescence, Puffy's instincts screamed of impending danger. This blue light wasn't an ambient glow. No, it was an entity, a mysterious force that defied the laws of the known world. And as the demonic being drew closer, its radiant hue intensified, casting a blue glow that painted the surroundings in an otherworldly hue. Dread consumed Puffy, his innate fear magnified by the surreal circumstances unfolding before him. The realization struck him with a paralyzing force. This entity was heading directly for him. Panic set in as Puffy's thoughts raced, grappling with the enormity of this situation. He felt the walls of the basket closing in, an inescapable confinement that amplified his desperation. In a frantic burst for energy, Puffy attempts to break free from the confines of the basket. His movements became erratic, fueled by the primal instinct of survival. Yet, the oak trapdoors held strong, rendering his efforts futile. Trapped and helpless, Puffy could only watch as the radiant being approached. The blue glow, now an ominous halo, that signaled an uncertain fate. The atmosphere cracked with tension as the being drew nearer and nearer. its radiant brilliance contrasting sharply with the storm's chaos. The encroaching entity and the relentless storm created a nightmarish scene, awaiting the convergence of forces that threatened to shatter his fragile existence within the confines of that restaurant. The blinding brilliance of the lights reached its peak, casting a burning glow that painted the entirety of the fish restaurant blue. Puffy, bracing for an inevitable demise, felt the oppressive weight of the impending doom. He knew it. He was going to die. That being, now only a few blocks away, seemed like an otherworldly harbinger of fate, as the radiant entity breached the confines of the fish restaurant. An unexpected calmness washed over Puffy. The surreal glow began to wane, unveiling the mysterious creature's true form. In the dim aftermath of the godly radiance, the being's true nature became apparent. He was a wizard. Now, that wizard quickly approached the barrel that he was trapped in, and with an otherworldly gaze, the wizard opened the barrel, and his eyes locked onto the pufferfish. In that moment, Puffy felt a surreal connection. It was as if the wizard itself had peered into the darkest depths of his soul. With a voice that resonated with both ominous authority and a strangely calming cadence, the wizard spoke.
Fear not, the fish, for I offer you a journey beyond the known realms, a land where the currents of destiny weave a very different path, where you embrace the unknown and leave behind the confines of this world.
Puffy, torn between the fear that lingered and the allure of a promised escape, hesitated for a brief moment. The wizard's offer hung in the air like a tempting wisp of fate. After a breath, Puffy, with a mix of trepidation and curiosity, agreed to the wizard. And so, in an instant, the transition from one world to another unfolded. The fish restaurant and the storm-inflicted coastal village faded away, replaced by a kaleidoscope of swirling colours. Puffy felt an indescribable force enveloping him, a surreal journey through the fabric of existence. Reality twisted and contorted, and Puffy found himself suspended in a moment between realms. The familiar chill of the ocean's depths gave way to a strange warmth, and the colours danced around him like playful spirits. The transition, a collision of worlds and energies, unfolded in a cascade of cosmic splendour, leaving Puffy at the threshold of a new land, a realm unknown and teeming with possibilities. In this peculiar new world, still retaining the blocky essence of the unknown, Puffy found himself submerged in a realm that felt different, an underwater expanse that offered an illusion of safety. The surreal blocks around him shaping an unfamiliar seascape that begged exploration. But as Puffy began to navigate this bizarre aquatic environment, the coral formations revealed subtle nuances. They deviated from the familiar structures of his previous world, and they exuded an otherworldly charm that heightened the peculiar nature of his surroundings. With cautious curiosity, Puffy delved into the depths, his fins propelling him forward through the blocky waters. However, the allure of exploration quickly turned into a perilous encounter. A sudden disturbance in the water signaled the arrival of a formidable foe, a shark. Its predatory silhouette emerged from the shadowy depths, a formidable force that sent a shiver through Puffy's aquatic existence. The shark's menacing jaws opened wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth, poised to make Puffy its next meal. Panic seized the pufferfish as he braced for the inevitable, for he knew that he couldn't outrun this. And so, in a desperate reflex, he shut his eyes tightly, his entire being trembling with the anticipation of the impending bite. As the jaws closed around Puffy, a surge of searing pain coursed through his form. The force of the bites, an unexpected clash between blocky realities, sent shockwaves of agony reverberating through him. Puffy screams, muffled by the aquatic environment, echoed in the surreal expanse as he grappled with the overwhelming pain. Puffy's screams continued, a desperate chorus in the midst of this surreal aquatic drama. The pain, a fusion of digital and aquatic realities, intensified as the shark's bites seemed to transcend the boundaries of the known and the unknown. Yet, after a few minutes of agonizing screams, he still wasn't dead, and so it was then that Puffy opened his eyes. But as he did that, the searing pain that had consumed him mere moments ago dissipated. He found himself alive, mysteriously spared from the jaws of that blocky shark, and that strange underwater realm with its odd corals and looming dangers had given way to yet another bewildering reality. No longer submerged in the familiar embrace of the ocean's waters, Puffy discovered that he now existed on a soft, billowing cloud amidst the vast cosmos of the universe. Galaxies sprawled across the cosmic tapestry, an awe-inspiring backdrop to the heavenly cloud that held him. Yet, in the midst of this celestial spectacle, a harsh reality struck Puffy. He was no longer in water, and so, at that moment, the crushing weight of suffocation set in as he gasped for the non-existent water. The cosmic cloud offered no respite, and the absence of water left Puffy in a desperate struggle for survival. Panic surged through him as he slowly began to die over the void, his aquatic instincts screaming out for the life-giving embrace of water. The galaxies that once covered the backdrop now seemed like distant witnesses to his suffering. But Puffy's frantic attempts to breathe were met with only silence from the vastness of the cosmos. As the seconds ticked away, Puffy's desperation intensified. The cosmic cloud, once a surreal refuge, became a merciless realm that denied him the essential element for life. In the midst of this grand expanse, Puffy fought back against the cruel reality that threatened to extinguish his existence. The void echoed with the silent struggle of a pufferfish gasping for water in the cosmic abyss. The galaxies were indifferent, and in this bizarre moment, Puffy stood on the edge of survival, and yet all hope seemed lost, as no water was here, and Puffy soon began to acknowledge that his resilience against death was futile. It was only a matter of time. In the throes of desperation, Puffy flopped and writhed on that dark cloud, his frantic search for water becoming increasingly desperate. Yet, as he struggled against a merciless grasp of suffocation, a glimmer of hope emerged. An unexpected encounter with a ginger cat. In his quest for survival, Puffy fixated on the feline creature, hoping that it held the key to his salvation. He approached the ginger cat with urgency, his voice pleading as he asked where he could find water. But, to his dismay, the cat remained silent, its unblinking gaze fixated upon Puffy. With each passing moment, his situation grew dire. The lack of water took a toll on his health, and he could feel the life force within him dwindling. The ginger cat, an enigmatic presence in this cosmic expanse, offered no solace. It continued to stare, indifferent to the pufferfish's desperate plea. As Puffy's vitality began to wane, the ginger cat's silence became an ominous echo of impending doom. In the face of imminent demise, Puffy's gaze locked with the cat's unyielding stare. The world around him seemed to blur as he fell on the brink of irreversible harm. But then, all of a sudden, the atmosphere shifted. Without warning, the ginger cat imploded, its form disintegrating into a cascade of energy. In the cat's place, a radiant, red crystal fragment materialized, a surreal testament to the inexplicable events unfolding in this cosmic realm. The crystal glowed with an otherworldly intensity, its pulsating light casting an eerie glow across the clouds. As Puffy struggled to comprehend the bizarre transformation, he realized that the red crystal held a mysterious power, one that might hold the key to his survival. And so, Puffy, without a clear understanding of the consequences, leapt into the radiant red crystal fragment, hoping that it might save him. In that fateful moment, the crystal fused with him, a surge of energy enveloping his being. The sensation was both exhilarating and mystifying. As Puffy emerged from the fusion, he discovered a profound change. He can now breathe within the air. He was finally liberated from the shackles of suffocation. The small cosmic cloud, once confining and threatening, now held a breath of life for Puffy. With each inhale, he reveled in the miraculous ability bestowed upon him by that enigmatic crystal and cat. The air, a newfound source of vitality, filled his lungs, and Puffy marveled at the unexpected turn of events. Taking a moment to absorb the gravity of this incredible transformation, Puffy cast his gaze across the cosmic expanse. It was just beautiful, more so than anything that he had ever seen before. It was awe-inspiring, a reminder of both his insignificance within the universe, but also it helped him understand the profound impact that he could make on just one small dot within the expansive sky. And that feeling just had a profound effect upon his soul. But rather quickly, another realization dawned upon him. This cloud that he was standing on, well, it was minuscule, a fleeting refuge in the vastness of the universe. And there was no way out. Its emptiness, stark and unsettling, left Puffy with a sense of concern. And so, driven by newfound curiosity, Puffy, now unburdened by the fear of suffocation, began to explore his limited surroundings. The small cloud offered only a brief respite, its dimensions too restricting for any substantial exploration. But as Puffy flopped around the area, his movements echoed with a newfound sense of urgency, a need to unravel the mysteries that lingered in the cosmic void. The emptiness of the cloud felt unnerving. It was as if the cosmic canvas held secrets yet to be unveiled. Puffy's instincts, heightened by the strange events that had transpired in his life as of recently, drove him to continue his search for meaning on that cloud, as there just had to be something more. And so, with each flop and flutter, he sought signs of life or just anything within this realm. But after a few hours, he found nothing, and he quickly realized that he was all alone on that small cloud in the middle of nowhere, within the universe. The isolation, once an eerie companion, now loomed as an oppressive force, settling a shroud of solitude upon him. Panic gripped Puffy as he grappled with the realization that there seemed to be no escape from the celestial confinement. His fins trembled with fear, the once desired isolation now transforming into an existential dread. The cosmic void stretched endlessly around him, offering no reprieve, no solace, and no escape. He was trapped. Puffy felt the weight of the cosmos pressing down upon him, and the very idea of being stranded in this cosmic prison filled him with a sense of unease. As Puffy shook in fear, his eyes darted around the seemingly endless void, when a glimmer of hope emerged from the galaxies. A figure bathed in the radiant hues of the cosmos emerged. A godlike being of celestial essence. This god, a towering entity mostly comprised of luminous blue, seemed to embody the very essence of the galaxies that surrounded them. The god's form exuded an otherworldly glow, casting a surreal light across the cosmic expanse. Its face, pure white and serene, contrasted with the celestial blues that covered its colossal form. The aura surrounding the god resonated with the majesty of the universe, and its humanoid form, towering and imposing, floated effortlessly in the cosmic air. Puffy, awestruck and trembling, could feel the god's gaze upon him. The god surveyed the lone pufferfish with an otherworldly understanding, as if peering into the very soul of this cosmic wanderer. In the presence of this celestial being, Puffy found himself caught between the conflicting currents of fear and fascination, unsure of the god's intentions in this enigmatic cosmic encounter. With curiosity, Puffy approached the towering god that emerged from the cosmic landscape. The god's gaze, a celestial gaze that seemed to reach beyond the fabric of reality, met Puffy's, as the pufferfish mustered the courage to draw nearer. In a booming voice that resonated with the cosmos, the god uttered a single word.
Subscribe.
The word hung heavy in the air, a mysterious command that left Puffy perplexed. But before he could comprehend the significance of that word, the god's colossal form swung towards him with a cosmic force. The world around Puffy vanished in an instant, replaced by an overwhelming whiteness that engulfed his senses. Deprived of sight, he found himself in an otherworldly void, disconnected from the cosmic expanse that had become his bizarre home. In the midst of this blinding whiteness, a peculiar sensation seized Puffy, an inexplicable feeling of descent. It was as if the fabric of reality had unraveled, and he was plummeting into the unknown. Puffy grappled with the disorienting notion of falling without a sense of direction or purpose. As he probably wasn't falling, he was just confused because all he could see was whiteness. But as the white abyss enveloped him, Puffy's perception shifted. He began to hear a strange buzzing sound, a hum that echoed in the emptiness. The sensation of falling intensified, the buzz growing louder with each passing moment. Puffy felt like a puppet in the hands of cosmic forces, hurling through the void with no control over his trajectory. The disconcerting symphony of buzzing and the sensation of rapid descent filled his consciousness in this surreal limbo, between worlds, he clung to the remnants of his understanding, questioning the very nature of his existence and the enigmatic encounter he had with that cosmic god. The white expanse, once a canvas of cosmic wonders, became a canvas of uncertainty, leaving him to grapple with the surreal journey unfolding around him. As Puffy's vision gradually returned, the blinding whiteness dissipated, revealing an unsettling reality. He was in freefall, hurling through the fabric of existence. The transition was swift and disorienting, and before he could comprehend the shift, he found himself plummeting into this unknown world. The jarring descent brought him crushing into this realm. They called this place Earth. The colossal impact sent him hurling into the heart of ancient Rome, where he crashed into the grand structure of the Colosseum. The soft warmth of the sand beneath him was a sensation that he hadn't experienced in ages, a stark contrast to the cosmic void he had traversed. Puffy, disoriented and overwhelmed, gazed around the colossal arena. Seats upon seats rose around him, and a multitude of beings filled the stands, their intense chants reverberating through the air. Their words, however, were unintelligible to Puffy, and so, to him, they were just a cacophony of sounds that left him perplexed and fearful, surrounded by the unfamiliar architecture of the Colosseum. Puffy took stock of his surroundings. The towering structure, the roaring crowd, the mystifying language, all of it contributing to the bewilderment that gripped him. He felt a profound sense of vulnerability, standing alone in this ancient amphitheater, unsure of the purpose of his presence. As the chanting echoed and the spectacle unfolded, Puffy grappled with the uncertainty of his situation. Fear gripped his soul as he faced the unknown. A fish out of water in a world that seemed both alien and threatening. The journey through the cosmos had deposited him here, in the heart of ancient Rome, and he now stood amidst the roars of the Colosseum. Confusion covered his face as he attempted to escape the confines of this new prison, and so he leaped with all the strength that he could muster, hoping to breach the boundary that separated him from the enigmatic world he had just entered. However, the cosmic energies that had granted him the power to breathe in air were insufficient for such a monumental feat, and so Puffy fell back to the sandy floor of the arena, thwarted in his attempt to break free. But, undeterred, he redirected his efforts towards the side doors, only to encounter another unexpected resistance. Golems, massive and imposing, blocked his path, their stoic forms serving as insurmountable guardians that prevented him from going further. Every attempt to circumvent their imposing presence was met with an undefeatable force that denied him any escape. As Puffy backed away from the impassable golems, a hush fell over the Colosseum. The once deafening chants of the spectators abruptly ceased, creating an eerie silence that hung in the air. Mechanical resonance filled the void, a sound that marked the arrival of a formidable adversary. The arena's atmosphere shifted from one of anticipation to an electric tension. Puffy found himself no longer alone in this arena, as he was now a reluctant participant in a spectacle that he could barely comprehend. The crowd's anticipation reached a fever pitch as the colossal gate creaked open, revealing the monstrous figure The Ravager. Now, the Ravager, a mechanical beast of war, emerged into the arena with a thunderous presence. The spectators, hungry for entertainment, erupted into cheers, reveling in the imminent clash between Puffy and the mechanical adversary. The Colosseum had been transformed into a stage for a bizarre and otherworldly confrontation. Now, Puffy, still grappling with the surreal nature of his predicament, faced the Ravager, an unwitting participant in a battle that transcended the boundaries of his understanding. As the tension in the arena reached its peak, Puffy prepared for a confrontation that seemed to exist solely for the amusement of the enigmatic spectators who reveled in the chaos unfolding before them. And as Puffy sprinted for his dear life across the sandy expanse of the Colosseum, the Ravager pursued him with relentless determination. The mechanical creature, a fusion of metal and menace, chased after him with a mechanical growl that echoed through the arena. Fear fueled Puffy's frantic sprint, his little fins propelling him forward as he desperately sought refuge from the relentless mechanical pursuit. The Ravager, undeterred by the pufferfish's attempts to escape, continued his relentless pursuit, jaws snapping with an appetite for this peculiar prey. The distance between Puffy and his pursuer quickly dwindled, and with a swift motion, the Ravager managed to sink his metallic teeth into Puffy. The pufferfish, caught off guard, felt the impact as the mechanical jaws clamped down. The Ravager, programmed for battle, found the taste of the pufferfish oddly delightful. Now, Puffy, while taking some serious damage, couldn't help but be a source of unexpected amusement for the spectators as the Colosseum echoed with laughter as the bizarre spectacle unfolded. With every wobbly step, Puffy continued to run, determined to evade his metallic foe. The Ravager, fueled by its programming, pursued the pufferfish with relentless enthusiasm. The chase continued, each twist and turn within the arena, eliciting cheers and laughter from the entertained crowd. But very quickly, he realized he couldn't run indefinitely. He was going to get caught, and so Puffy, his remaining energy, and turned to face the pursuing Ravager. In a display of underwater combat, the pufferfish readied himself for his first counterattack. And so, as he shifted his strategy, he began to run in circles around the Ravager, creating a whirlwind of aquatic chaos. The crowd erupted into cheers, reveling in the unexpected spectacle of a tiny pufferfish outmaneuvering a mechanical marvel. But despite the entertaining display, Puffy's diminutive arms proved insufficient for dealing significant damage. And so, the Ravager, though disoriented by the dizzying dance, remained resilient. The cheers of the crowd echoed through the arena. But the pufferfish knew that he needed to do something else, as he needed a more potent attack, as his current strategy was just unsustainable. With determination burning in his eyes, Puffy decided to unleash his secret weapon. And so, he puffed up to his full size, expanding like a spiky balloon. And then he released a potent toxin. The poison, a deadly concoction that nature had bestowed upon him, began to take effect on the mechanical beast. The Ravager, once a formidable foe, now struggled under the influence of Puffy's toxic assault. The Colosseum's atmosphere shifted from amusement to awe as the unexpected turn of events unfolded. Puffy, an unwitting gladiator had tapped into the lethal potential of his natural defenses, turning the tide of battle in a way that no one could have predicted. The cheers of the crowd reached a fever pitch as they witnessed the Ravager falter under the influence of Puffy's venomous retaliation. The pufferfish, having embraced the unexpected role thrown upon him, continued his stance of evasion and strategic strikes. The Colosseum, a witness to countless battles throughout history, now hosted an extraordinary clash that transcended the boundaries of the ordinary. In this bizarre arena of laughter and cheers, Puffy's unorthodox tactics have become a beacon of hope, showcasing the resilience, adaptability of even the most unlikely warriors. The outcome of this peculiar battle was now uncertain, as the pufferfish and the Ravager engaged in a dance of survival, a spectacle that captivated the hearts of all of those who watched on. No one knew what Puffy was going to do next, and some even began to believe that he had a shot at winning this. Now, Puffy, thinking that victory was near, became a bit arrogant, and so he decided to depuff, as, having unleashed his toxic prowess, he now believed that the battle was already won. But little did he know, the Ravager, though visibly weakened, was not ready to succumb to defeat just yet. The Ravager, fueled by its mechanical resilience, seized the opportunity presented by Puffy's momentary vulnerability. With a sudden burst of energy, the mechanical beast lunged at the unsuspecting pufferfish. In a flash of metallic movements, the Ravager collided with Puffy, sending him flying through the air. The Colosseum, witness to countless battles, and now this comedic spectacle watched on as Puffy soared over the heads of the cheering crowd. The cheers grew even louder, reaching a cacophony of excitement and wonder as the pufferfish, propelled by the force of the Ravager's attack, sailed out of the arena and into the skies above. The unexpected turn of events, while perilous for Puffy, added an element of absurdity to the already bizarre battle. The Colosseum, once a solemn battleground for gladiators, now resonated with laughter and astonishment as Puffy's trajectory took him to new heights. The pufferfish, unwittingly transformed into a soaring hero, became an unintentional symbol of amusement and wonder for all of those watching. And so, as Puffy's flight took him far beyond the confines of the Colosseum, the battle was concluded. The victory cheers now mingled with laughter, creating a surreal ambience in the ancient arena. However, as Puffy soared through the sky, after being catapulted out of the Colosseum, a strange and an unexplainable phenomenon took hold. Instead of the anticipated ascent, Puffy defied the laws of gravity as he ascended higher and higher and higher into the sky. The spectators in the Colosseum, still processing what they were witnessing, found themselves on the edges of their seats. Little did Puffy know, this earthly world had decided to play a cosmic prank, turning his trajectory into an unintentional dance across the seemingly boundless expanse of the sky. He was getting faster and faster and faster. He was now far above the Colosseum, and then, all of a sudden, he stopped going up. But then, out of his control, he began to go forward. He was being propelled by some supernatural force, pushing him faster and faster and faster and faster, and soon he was going faster than the speed of light. Wait, that just shouldn't be possible. And yet, Puffy was doing it. In just a mere few seconds, he reached the icy edge of the earth. because, in case you didn't know, the world is flat. And so, it was at that moment when he should have been thrown off the edge of the world and landed onto the shell of the great turtle that held up this land that he miraculously turned around. And without losing any momentum, he continued his flight. His speed was only increasing. Even the god of this world saw it. And he was amazed by this too. And so, as Puffy accelerated to unimaginable speeds, quickly surpassing 1,000,000 times the speed of light, he became an invisible streak of light. No one could perceive the strange spectacle occurring in the unseen cosmic realm. Zooming back and forth across the flat world, Puffy defied the very laws that governed real-world physics. His velocity escalated exponentially, reaching a mind-boggling 3.1415926 million times the speed of light. But then abruptly, as if guided by forces beyond comprehension, he came to an abrupt halt, suspended in the unseen dimensions. With an unexpected twist in the strange laws of physics, Puffy lost all momentum and began to fall. But, unbeknownst to him, his extreme high-speed escapade had carried him through time itself. Through just a mere few days, in Puffy's experience, he found himself travelling 2,000 years into the future when he finally ceased his cosmic journey. That's right, he had just time travelled, but far more impressive, his journey ended almost precisely where it had begun. So hovering mysteriously above the Colosseum, which was now a relic of a bygone era, Puffy began a descent that defied the very fabric of time itself. The once familiar landscape had evolved into an unfamiliar terrain, leaving Puffy to navigate the peculiarities of a world that changed so drastically during his inexplicable time travel. But there was one thing on Puffy's mind at that time that was far more pressing than the fact that he had just time traveled, and that thing was his hunger. But, very luckily, as he descended, he saw it. A carefully crafted pizza, a masterpiece of Minecraft's culinary art. The villager, having spent meticulous hours assembling the perfect combination of dough, sauce, and toppings, was now left to witness the tragic demise of their culinary creation as Puffy landed on their pizza and began to devour it. The villager, who had just ordered that pizza, was outraged as they began yelling,
Una pesce pala, Puffy la pesce pala, la pizza e la goro, chiamati la polizia.
The villager had clearly expressed their culinary discontent and anger at this situation. But Puffy, oblivious to the great suffering he had just caused, looked around innocently, unaware that his descent had just disrupted the delicate balance of a hard-working villager's lunch. And so, in the midst of the angered villagers rumbling, the villager's voice rose in volume as they deemed this act a crime of the highest order. Their pizza, now ruined with the uninvited presence of a pufferfish, had become a canvas of chaos, a symbol of an unexpected combination between the cosmic and the culinary. As the villager denounced the wrongdoing, the police were called. And so, a squad of Minecraft police officers arrived on the scene in mere seconds. Decked out in blocky uniforms, they arrived with pixelated badges of justice. They quickly assessed the situation, and with a seriousness benefiting the crime scene, they wasted no time putting an end to Puffy's clearly intentional evil act. And so, with a combination of synchronized moves, they shoved the pufferfish into a bucket, determined to bring him to justice for his great crimes. Thrown into the prison, Puffy found himself in a jail cell that was no more than a small puddle of water surrounded by cold, unyielding iron bars. This aquatic enclosure, more of a tiny fish tank than a prison, became his involuntary residence, and the adjacent courtroom provided a front row seat to the trials of the other evil entities within this world. In this peculiar aquatic detention, Puffy existed as a decoration, a spectacle for those facing justice within the court. As others underwent their trials, Puffy, with his watery prison, paced relentlessly within the limited confines of his aquatic cube. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. His movements were both a testament to his relentless energy and a surreal dance in the face of the bizarre legal system he now found himself entangled in. As the days crawled by in his watery confinement, the time for his trial finally arrived. The pixelated courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the accusations against Puffy were read aloud. A peculiar blend of food poisoning, flying without a permit, and the unconventional charge of time travel. The judge, a blocky figure with a stern expression, scrutinized the case with a combination of seriousness and absurdity that could only exist within this world. The courtroom unfolded like a surreal play, with Puffy attempting to defend himself against the accusations that seemed more like glitches than actual crimes. Yes, he might have eaten a pizza, but that was just a misclick. The judge, maintaining a pixelated sense of integrity, came to a decision, and eventually he slammed down the pixelated gavel and declared,
You, Puffy McBubblesworth the 7th Junior, are hereby found guilty!
The verdict was as perplexing as the charges themselves, and Puffy's punishment was no less bizarre. The judge, without missing a beat, sentenced him to a lifetime in an aquarium. Puffy, realizing the gravity of his situation, cried out for freedom, vehemently opposing the prospects of being confined to an aquatic display for the rest of his life. But despite his pleas, the pillagers, the enforcer of the earthly justice system, attempted to transport him to the predetermined aquarium, where he would be destined to spend the rest of his life. But as they opened the jar containing Puffy, a flurry of potions thrown by none other than the local dolphins, who had a tendency for mischief, disrupted the proceedings. The potions had an unexpected effect, and so Puffy, in a desperate bid for freedom, made a mad dash for the courtroom exit. He raced past the astonished villagers and pillagers, his tiny fins propelling him forward with a surprising speed. But just as he reached the exit, the mysterious dolphins tossed another set of potions in his direction. Rather quickly, it took effect, and Puffy succumbed to a deep slumber, collapsing onto the cold stone floor. His dreams of freedom dashed in the chaos of the Minecraft courtroom. In the dark confinement of the tank, Puffy found himself submerged in an eerie ambience that toyed with the boundaries of reality. The murky darkness enveloped him, casting an oppressive shroud that seemed to absorb every glimmer of hope. The silence within the aquarium was deafening, amplifying the emptiness that enveloped him, broken only by the distant humming of machinery. Beneath him, the coarse texture of sand and gravel felt unforgiving. A stark reminder of the vibrant corals and lively underwater world he had once called home. The kelp swayed in rhythmic patterns, creating a peculiar shadow that danced across the tank's obsidian walls. He hated this. The lack of freedom and the confinement to the cell was just horrible. Now, occasional glimmers of light filtered through the water surface, revealing brief snapshots of the confined space that now dictated his existence. Puffy's attempts to breach the surface were met with frustration as the water level stubbornly thwarted his every effort. The open expanse above taunted him, a cruel illusion of the freedom he once took for granted. The top of the tank remained out of reach, a horrible tease that only intensified the weight of his confinement. The room itself, seemingly devoid of life, added an extra layer of isolation. The absence of any other creatures heightened the surreal nature of his predicament, leaving Puffy to ponder the mysteries that surrounded him. Unanswered questions lingered in the air, contributing to the enigmatic atmosphere of this underwater prison. But as he continued to drift in the dimly lit tank, surrounded by the impenetrable darkness, Puffy couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that this was his reality now, a bizarre and twisted chapter in his aquatic journey, unfolding in the mysterious depths of the unknown. In the monotonous routine of his tank-bound existence, Puffy became a prisoner, the sands of time slipping away in a desolate dance of isolation. As the years slowly passed, he eventually found himself consuming the gritty sand at the bottom of the tank. A tasteless sustenance that did little to satiate the hunger for connection and freedom gnawing at his soul. His days blurred together in a surreal haze of swimming, a ceaseless endeavor that mirrored the futility of his predicament. The repetitive thuds against the transparent barrier echoed through the empty chamber, a somber drumbeat that marked the passage of time in a realm untouched by life. But meanwhile, the bustling activity of the villagers and the majestic presence of the Ender Dragons unfolded around him, all indifferent to Puffy's suffering, as they all just watched on at the more interesting sea creatures. Their existence, filled with purpose and vibrant energy, it served as a stark contrast to his own pitiful confinement. The villagers traversed the expansive aquarium without even sparing a glance for Puffy, and even the formidable Ender Dragons, beings of immense power and mystery, seemed oblivious to the sentient soul lost within those glass confines. Puffy's isolation deepened with each passing moment, a profound sense of loneliness settling over him. The lack of acknowledgement from the world beyond the tank intensified the emotional toll, leaving him yearning for the freedom he once took for granted. The once vivid memories of coral reefs and open spaces now felt like distant dreams, taunting him with the fleeting traces of a life lost to the peculiarities of fate. His gaze fixated onto the outside world, the glass barrier, a cruel reminder of the invisible boundaries that separated him from the bustling life unfolding just beyond reach. The absence of camaraderie, the absence of connection, the absence of any semblance of freedom painted a poignant portrait of despair within the watery confines of his solitude. As the years stretched on, Puffy's heart sank deeper into the abyss of isolation. A symphony of silent yearning echoing through the lonely expanse of his aquatic prison. But then, one day, with a sudden surge of defiance against the aquatic imprisonment, Puffy decided to just shatter the very constraints confining his existence. The glass walls, once an impenetrable barrier, yielded to his inexplicable determination, fracturing into a million shards. But instead of swimming away, as one might have expected, Puffy decided to deny the laws of physics. In a twist, he levitated above the remnants of the shattered tank, hovering in midair. It was a sight beyond the villagers' wildest imaginations. A pufferfish covered with its spiky exterior, taking flight like some sort of aquatic apparition. The villagers gazed upwards, their eyes widening in disbelief and amazement. Whispers of astonishment rippled through the crowd, the onlookers unable to comprehend the sheer absurdity of the spectacle before them. Puffy's newfound ability to soar through the air defied every logical notion of fishy behavior, transcending the boundaries of the underwater world's understanding. Yet, very strangely, the villagers, quick to adapt to the peculiarities of their realm, simply shrugged off the surreal occurrence, remembering that here on Earth, it was rather common for fish to break free of their cages and to fly away. This was an everyday occurrence, and so, with a collective nonchalance, they just carried on with their daily lives. Now, Puffy, embracing his newfound freedom, soared above that village, transcending this realm with an elegance that defied nature. And so, with newfound determination, he embarked on a quest to hopefully find a way that would lead him back to his aquatic home dimension. And so, closing his eyes, he tapped into some sort of mysterious sixth sense, attuned to the scent of interdimensional gateways. Now, the only scent that he could detect was very faint. It was a mere whisper, and yet Puffy's determination transcended the boundaries of the peculiar, propelling him through the air in search for this enigmatic portal. With each flap of his non-existent wings, he soared across the vast expanse, venturing into realms where fish dared not to enter. And as he traversed the surreal landscapes, he encountered many bizarre sights that defied the laws of nature. For example, a polar bear, inexplicably present in the arid desert, stood proudly lighting a cascade of colourful fireworks. The explosions painted the sandy canvas with hues of red, blue, and green, creating a celestial display that contrasted sharply with the golden dunes. Puffy, floating in the air with an otherworldly grace, couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of the scene. The polar bear, seemingly unfazed by the oddity of his presence, continued to ignite the desert sky with bursts of fiery brilliance. It was an encounter that emphasized the surreal nature of Puffy's interdimensional journey. But still, as the pufferfish pressed onwards, the scent of that portal grew stronger, guiding him through the ever-stranger realms within the earth. But little did he know, the journey ahead held even more bewildering encounters, pushing the boundaries of absurdity beyond the limits of aquatic imagination. Rather quickly, Puffy found himself standing before the monumental Minecraft pyramids, towering structures that reached for the sky. Each block was meticulously placed, creating an otherworldly amalgamation of architectural wonder. As Puffy closed his eyes, the ambient energy of these virtual pyramids enveloped him. It was an energy that spoke of ancient mysteries, a power woven into the very fabric of the universe. And so, with a sense of determination, Puffy allowed these ancient forces to guide him towards the hidden portal. It was buried beneath the weight of the largest pyramid. And so, bounding up the majestic structure, Puffy approached its apex. With a single mighty puff, he shattered the blocks that guarded the entrance, and he entered a labyrinth network of tunnels. The descent into the depths below was a journey through a surreal maze of pixelated passageways. The tunnels twisted and turned, creating a chaotic tapestry of interconnected pathways. Puffy navigated through the labyrinth, each turn revealing more of the cosmic energies that had guided him to this place. The walls seemed to pulse with a luminous glow, casting a strange light on his journey. And as he descended deeper into the subterranean complexity, the air became thick with the unmistakable scent of interdimensional energies. This was it. He was close now, and he would finally be able to go home to his oceanic realm. And so, Puffy, guided solely by the echoes of the portal, pressed forward through the intricate passages. The journey through the tunnels became a surreal odyssey, an exploration of the hidden realms that lurked beneath the surface of the Minecraft pyramids. Puffy, surrounded by the pulsating glow of ancient energy, continued his descent into the unknown, ready to breach the portal that would once again transport him across the pixelated borders of reality. The energy within the ancient chamber intensified as Puffy continued his descent, each step resonating with the pulsating hum of an otherworldly force. The walls seemed to ripple with unseen energies, creating a hallucination. The passageways twisted and turned in bizarre configurations, defying the laws of logic. Staircases seemed to loop endlessly, and the doorways led to landscapes of perpetual ascent that just really shouldn't exist. As Puffy navigated this surreal labyrinth where gravity itself seemed to warp and distort, he pressed on, for he knew that the portal was close. The air became charged with static, and strange apparitions flickered in the corners of his vision. Minecraft mobs appeared and disappeared in a ghostly fashion, their blocky forms contributing to the surreal atmosphere of the ancient chambers. And then, suddenly, at the end of one of those peculiar tunnels, Puffy stumbled upon the source of all these energies. It was the gateway to another dimension that beckoned him with this mysterious allure. However, before he could approach, the ceiling above him gave way, and an army of 10 wardens descended. Puffy braced himself for a fierce battle, puffing up and preparing to unleash his combat skills. However, to his surprise, the wardens didn't attack. Instead, they ignited the portal, its purple glow casting an eerie light on the confused face of Puffy. The wardens, displaying an unexpected hospitality, then began preparing a meal for the pufferfish. Puffy, bewildered but grateful, watched on as they laid out a feast before him. The centerpiece of this meal was a dish containing both bread and diamonds, an absurd creation that left Puffy both amused and hungry. But still, Puffy devoured the meal that was so graciously crafted, and he thanked the wardens before he approached the glowing portal. And with a final leap, he entered the swirling vortex, leaving behind the surreal wonders of these pyramids. In the blistering heat of the Nether, Puffy found an unexpected piece. The lava, normally a perilous hazard for most creatures, became a soothing heaven for the pufferfish, as, ignoring the scalding temperatures, he immersed himself in the molten rivers, relishing the fiery touch against his scales. He swam and relaxed in those refreshing lavas for hours, achieving a level of inner peace he never thought was possible. But after his refreshing swim, Puffy decided to explore further, and so he visited the basalt deltas, and the crimson forests, and the mangrove swamps, and the warped forests. But after he saw all of that, he was kind of bored, and so, channeling the strange powers of the Nether, he summoned a Wither, an ominous floating creature with 3 withering heads. Puffy, with his newfound boldness, confronted the Wither and posed a critical question. The Wither responded with an affirmative nod, before exploding in a violent spectacle. The ensuing blast propelled the pufferfish to the ceiling of the Nether, and it was from that vantage point that he beheld the fiery landscape in all of its chaotic beauty. It was just awe-inspiring, but as the Nether's ominous glow surrounded him, Puffy couldn't help but feel another sense of yearning for his home dimension. The heat and grandeur of the Nether were fascinating, but a strange homesickness tugged at his soul. He just wanted to be back home, and so, with determination burning in his eyes, he contemplated the next step in his journey to achieving that. And rather quickly, he knew what he needed to do. And so, with a display of raw strength, Puffy summoned a surge of power from within. Ignoring the unyielding bedrock ceiling that stopped most creatures, he shattered it with his diminutive, yet determined arms. And then, ascending through the fragments of bedrock, he emerged above the Nether. A feat never before witnessed. But what he sought was far higher, and so he began to fly directly upwards for the next few trillion years. Until he finally found it, the god of this dimension, the Nether Spirit. And so, confronting the Nether Spirit, an ancient being embodying the very essence of the Nether, Puffy humbly requested a return to the overworld. However, the Nether Spirit, in a stern voice that echoed through the crimson expanse, denied Puffy's plea. But, undeterred and fueled by pure determination, Puffy took matters into his own fins as he engaged the Nether Spirit in a battle. In a spectacle of divine power, the mighty Nether Spirit succumbed to Puffy's relentless assault within mere seconds. And in the aftermath, Puffy assumed his powers. Now a god, Puffy seized control of the Nether's dominion, and with his newfound powers, he decided to teleport himself back to the overworld. And so, in an instant, he transcended realms, appearing once again beneath the sky of the overworld. Finally, after all of that, he was home. Yet, something was amiss. The familiar landscapes distorted into a bizarre mirror version of his recollection. He opened his mind, and he understood it now. This overworld that he was currently in was a parallel universe to his homeland, and there was no way that he could travel through universes, and so he would just have to make the most of this world, which he wasn't really opposed to doing, as after all, it was quite familiar, and he still felt a semblance of this being his home. And so, in this bizarre and mirrored overworld, Puffy continued his journey, relishing the peculiarities that surrounded him. This world seemed like his, but younger. It was as if that flood never happened. But still, as he explored the world, visiting all biomes, from the cherry groves to the subscribed forests, he ended up on a small, uninhabited island. Yes, this was it. This was the thing that he had always wanted in life. An area of land where he could be free, without constraints, while also having no worries of any society within his life. This was perfect. And so, it was there that Puffy, wielding the powers of a great god, constructed his very own house, made entirely out of flames. A structure that defied the laws of the known world. In the ambient glow of his fiery abode, Puffy found a semblance of peace and tranquility for the first time. Retiring from his adventures, Puffy then decided to spend the remainder of his days on that island and in that house, indulging in a delicious diet of bricks, savouring the oddly satisfying crunch and texture of every bite. And to fill his time while he wasn't devouring that magnificent food source, he engaged in the peculiar activity of fishing in the air. Yet, the strangeness didn't end there, as Puffy also found himself entangled in battles against sentient apples on a daily basis, animated fruits that exhibited an unexpected habit for combat. But, as the god of the nether, Puffy won each trial with ease. And so, the tranquility of his newfound island refuge remained. Here, he lived out his days in a harmonious fusion of oddity and contentment, a godly retiree in a parallel world. But then, one rainy morning, things would change, as that tranquil morning was disrupted by the malevolent dance of the soul flames that threatened to engulf everything that Puffy held dear. Alarmed by the encroaching danger, Puffy summoned his divine power to conjure a tempest of colossal proportions. He was summoning a tsunami. Torrential rains joined forces with the relentless waves, battling the encroaching soul fire. The island became a battleground, nature's fury clashing with the supernatural blaze in a tumultuous struggle for control. But in the aftermath of this titanic clash, the island was transformed. But not by the gentle touch of rain, but by the unbridled forces of a divine tsunami. Yes, the soul fire was extinguished by the tempest's might, just as he had wanted. But as Puffy surveyed his home, he realized something. His house, and the island as a whole, were in ruins, battered and torn by the unrelenting forces he had unleashed. The god stood amidst the wreckage, his dreams washed away by the relentless cascade of waters. He caused this. He was the devil in his own story. And so, unable to cope with this, he leapt into the cold embrace of the ocean. And it was there that Puffy underwent a surreal transformation. He gained a desire to simplify his existence, and so, to do that, he needed a new form. One where he could live that simple life with no being ever coming to annoy him ever again. And so, to do that, he darted towards the first creature that crossed his path, a hapless squid. Yes, this was it. This was going to be his new form. And so, in a bizarre act of cosmic rearrangement, he poisoned that creature and merged with its consciousness, exchanging his pufferfish form for the monotonous existence of a mundane squid. Puffy, now reborn as a squid, discovered a newfound love for the simplicity of underwater life. His days unfolded in a slow, rhythmic pattern, a serene existence far removed from the cosmic chaos of his previous adventures. As each morning, Puffy, now a squid with a desire for routine, started his days by gently swaying in the gentle current. It was a hypnotic dance, a slow movement of tentacles in the sunlight filtering through the ocean's surface. The ritualistic movements served as both a morning stretch and a calming meditation, setting the tone for the peaceful hours ahead. And so, as the day progressed, Puffy engaged in the delicate art of ink production. Squid life demanded a keen mastery of this dark craft, and Puffy took pride in crafting the ink, as he would emit clouds of ink with meticulous timing. Mealtime, a crucial aspect of his daily routine, brought both challenge and monotony. Puffy, the cosmic wanderer turned cephalopod, now spent countless hours scavenging for minuscule prey in the vastness of the ocean. The thrill of the hunt was replaced by the repetitive pursuit of small, unassuming organisms, a collection of minute creatures that failed to escape him. And then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a tranquil glow upon the ocean's depths, Puffy would retreat into a cozy crevice within that reef. There, in the underwater twilight, he spent his nights in a state of idleness, thinking of ways that he would one day be able to grow large enough to consume the entire world and all life forces within it. You know, peaceful thoughts to have. And so, in the quiet realm of the underwater simplicity, Puffy embraced the monotony with an odd satisfaction. This was a nice life. His days as an otherworldly adventurer might have faded, but the peaceful routine of the squid life offered its own peculiar charm, a serenity found in the uneventful beauty of the ocean depths. And yet, in the cold underwater realm, where Puffy, now a simple squid, found solace in the routine embrace of the ocean, an unexpected disturbance would shatter the tranquility. A mysterious illager with a mischievous glint in their eye plunged into the watery abyss, setting his sights on the unsuspecting squid. With a swift strike, Puffy met his untimely demise. The illager, seemingly unfazed by the confrontation, then proceeded to extract the very essence of his ink-filled soul, collecting not just the ink, but the soul itself. The ink, once a testament to Puffy's mundane yet contented life, now served a peculiar purpose, as the illager crafty and imaginative rose to the surface, and it was there that he harnessed the power of the soul and ink to create a piece of art. The canvas bore a message written in strokes of squid-deprived ink. But wait, that strange villager, well, he did actually steal the souls of many beings. And so, to learn the diabolical tale of his life, you'll need to watch this video.